Ashley Chamberlain, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So, me too. Now, it's funny that we're super excited about a conversation around bookkeeping, but it's far more than a conversation around bookkeeping, folks. So, Ashley, just to kind of kick it off, because as much as your bio does justice, things change even from the time you publish a bio to what we got going on now. But when somebody says to you, Ashley, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that question? Given what you got going on?
It's funny. I get excited to talk about the numbers because when people ask, what do you do for a living? I basically say I help you understand your numbers. What people might consider a once a year situation. You drop your documents off at your CPA, you get them back, you pay money, and that's it. I go into a somewhat relationship with small business owners and help them really get a hold of their finances inside and out and get a little more time back into why they started a business, and really just try to guide them through that the best way we can. So bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, strategy, we're here for it all.
Yeah, it's funny is that you may not know this about me, but over 20 years, I've literally coached, worked with one-on-one, one-on-many from stage in the world of real estate investing and treating your real estate investing like a business, as well as small business owners in different industries. My point of sharing this is that we kick off to a great start in this conversation because I have stood on stage many, many times. And one of my biggest rants is quit doing your own bookkeeping. And I usually do that by, polling the crowd, and I'll say, so raise your hand if your aspiration in business is to become a bookkeeper. And like one person in the audience will raise their hand, exactly, just like you did. And everybody else keeps their hands down. And I go, perfect. Now, with that in mind, why are you still doing your bookkeeping? Now, the reason I want to set you up this way is because I'm such a big, big advocate or fan, if you will, of business owners, small business owners, any business owner, taking and saying, okay, what am I good at? Where do I want to spend my time? And I've got so many stories of people that did their own bookkeeping, did it wrong, had to hire a bookkeeper to fix the problem, cost them 10x to solve or to fix the problem that they created because they didn't know how to set up their books. Anyways, so I go on, and I could do this whole segment about bookkeeping, but actually, I want you to talk about it from your experience as a bookkeeper, because you have to look at it. I look at it this way, and I go, as a business owner, I have an expertise in something I do well, and bookkeeping is not one of them. And so why would I spend my time bookkeeping when I can hire an expert to do it? So that's a long prelude, and I don't want to take any of your thunder, but let's talk about bookkeeping from your perspective, how you see it through your eyes as a bookkeeper.
I really could not have asked for a better foundation that you just laid for me. So, because I also, I was the worst at my own bookkeeping because, believe it or not, I didn't start this firm to do my own bookkeeping. I started to help others. And what I find is most business owners are incredibly passionate about something. They started it for whatever they're passionate about or whatever they're good at. And that's where they want to put all of their time. So what happens is they go in full force, they're ready to serve their clients. And then all of the bookkeeping, which can be entering in invoices, keeping track of the expenses, trying to chase money, to make sure they get paid. All of that stuff that is essential for running a business gets put on a back burner, and they just keep going. And so, I did it. I did it myself. I was just hopping on sales calls, networking, doing all the right things. And then my own accounting was put on the back burner because that wasn't the most important thing to grow a business in my mind. I was serving other people, telling them to do it, but I wasn't doing it. And and it's funny you ask people to raise your hand. Like, why are you doing this thing? It's because people think, well, I can just do it all at night, or I can do it on the weekend, or I can have my wife do it. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
My wife can do it. She does a completely different kind of job, but it's just bookkeeping. Like it's not hard. And I'm here to tell you that it might not feel hard in the beginning when you have, 2 to 5 expenses, but then you start getting growth and then it becomes a big deal. So bookkeeping is what I like to think of as the maintenance part of your business. It's what keeps you going. It helps you understand where you're at. The accounting part, the analysis part helps you understand how to go where you need to go as far
Mm.
as your revenue goals. If you don't analyze the data that you're putting in at night or you're putting in on a weekend, or someone else is being sweet and doing it for you, a wife, a husband, a family member. If you don't understand those numbers, there's no way you can understand how to get to that goal if you can afford to get to a goal or if you're already there and you just didn't know it. So that's where the accounting kind of comes in. And I myself, like I said, fell victim to it to where I was just grinding and grinding. And then at the end of a month, I would put it all in and I thought, oh, I actually made what I was going towards. So now I need to figure out how do I handle all these expenses? And oh, that's why I feel overwhelmed because I've been putting so much time here. Now I need to go here. It gives you a big picture. So that is the exact reason I hear every single time, well, I don't know how much money I'm making. Well, you're putting it in a couple hours on a weekend. You're not retaining it, you're not understanding it. You're just doing it, the tedious entering part. So that's kind of, it's exactly what you just said.
Well, yeah, and let's break it down and unpack this a little bit more. I think it's an important conversation for anybody who's a business owner because, from my experience and my own personal experience, I've been, a business owner for 40 plus years. And so when I look at where I started, where I got to, where I am today, and all of the things that my own progression of growing within a business and growing the business, and what do I do and what do I love to do, what do I absolutely despise doing, bookkeeping is in the top probably 3 things. But what gets in the way is the actual costs associated. People tell themselves they can't afford a bookkeeper, especially somebody who's starting out, maybe their top line revenue is 60, 80 grand, 100 grand, whatever. It's a number that they look at and they go, gosh, if I got to pay a bookkeeper. So let's break that down because that's a myth that many small business owners have. I look at it and I actually say, you can't afford not to have a bookkeeper, especially if you don't have the skills of a bookkeeper. That's my first story that I kind of position it. But when you look at, is there a way for somebody to look at it and say, okay, when I look at a bookkeeper, I'm hiring them by the hour, or is that how you operate? And I can budget and say, take a look at it. It's going to cost you 3 hours a week or 5 hours a week or whatever the number is. How do you break it down so that we can get past this hurdle called it's a cost that I can't justify or I can't cover?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I actually had just posted about this on our social media because right after tax time, there's this we call it a tax hangover in the accounting world. So we're all just like hungover from numbers, but business owners are suddenly rejuvenated because they either feel like, oh my goodness, I have this huge tax bill that I didn't expect, or I actually got a refund and I want to figure out how to keep staying ahead because this accidentally happened. And
Mhm.
so it's like this rush of business owners that are like, tell me everything right now. Can I afford it? What does that look like? How much should I budget? And it can go a couple of different ways. So we have certain clients that we do hourly work, and so when we get on the phone, it's heavily dependent on the industry. So I'll
Mhm.
use a real estate example. We have a couple of real estate investors that only have a few transactions a month. They have less than 20. They're pretty standard every month. They don't change often. They have a
Yeah.
few properties that they want to keep track of, make sure that the rent is getting paid, making sure that they're paying the expenses. Very, what I would say, predictable. And we do hourly because sometimes we know we can knock it out in a shorter amount of time than if we were to put them in one of our packages. So
Right.
our packages are more for people that have kind of a roller coaster. Sometimes it's more, sometimes less. So we're trying to find out what's the best cost effective way for you. And maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot by doing that, but we really try to meet people where they are. We want to say, do you actually need a bookkeeper? Because
Mhm.
sometimes the smaller, the solopreneurs, they're just starting out, they're very intimidated. We could create a spreadsheet and we say, here you go. Start
Mhm.
here. When you start feeling overwhelmed with this spreadsheet, that's how you know, reach back out to us. Let's talk about what next steps are. And we do that for people all the time. It's just a quick, we call it our strategy call. And it's a very, very low cost because we know we can create that spreadsheet. We have a template. We just customize it for you in a short amount of time. But we're not going to sell something to someone that they're not ready and they really can't afford it. But if you're making anywhere from 60 to $70,000 a year, I want to know what you're actually doing to maintain your bookkeeping because you're at a point where you need to start looking, whether it's the hourly rate or a package rate. Our packages are really cool because they are for people that have the roller coaster. They are for, we know exactly what you need in your industry, and this is the package we're going to give to you. You're going to have financial statements, which is going to be your profit and loss, your balance sheet. Some people like their cash flow statement. We're going to send it to you every single month, where all you have to do, and we do send a Loom video because we like to remind you we're still people. Watch
Mhm.
the Loom video. It's usually less than 5 minutes. And we're going to say, here's what you're making, here's what you're spending, here's where we see room for growth, take it or leave it. And it's easy as that. But we kind of customize it. So really, if you're making $60,000 to $70,000, you're ready. You're there. You're almost looking at, should you be an LLC? Should you be an S corp? Like those are the kind of questions we're gonna kind of talk to you about that maybe you're not thinking about because you're doing other stuff. You're doing all the other
Mhm.
things that you want to talk about, but that's where the strategy comes in. So you're probably ready to hire before you know it.
Well, it's so interesting. I know myself over the years. So I've got right now currently three operating companies and three or four holding companies. Now, that's all to say that over the years, as that has evolved, when I think about bookkeeping, the biggest lesson I had to get is what is the best use of my time? And many say, well, it only takes me a couple hours a week, or it takes me 4 or 5 hours a week. And I'm looking at that, I'm going, okay, well, let's even say it's 3 hours a week of bookkeeping. And I mean, first off, you have to ask yourself, are you even doing it right? Are you really got the account code set up properly? Are you really breaking out the tax that you can expense or write off or keep track of, or whatever the story is? What I'm saying is that are you really breaking down the numbers? And then 3 hours a week is 12 hours a month. And I don't care what anybody says, that 12 hours a month, I don't care if I'm doing nothing but sitting around meditating and coming up with creative ideas. It's a better use of my time than bookkeeping. If
Mhm.
I have better use of my time called I take that 12 hours a month and make a sale, then that's what I want to be doing because that's my job. That's really where I go is okay, what am I generating for revenue? And if I'm spending 12 hours bookkeeping, I'm just really saving on administrative costs. And I always say to business owners, my common comment is whatever your value is, that if you're doing the job of a bookkeeper, depending on who they are, you're paying yourself 25 to 50 or $60 an hour. Let's just use that number as math, right? The point is bookkeepers are wired to do that. They do it efficiently, they do it effectively, they do it accurately. And why are you spending your time doing it? That's always my argument for why are you doing anything? I don't care if it's bookkeeping or what it is. Ultimately, you have to set yourself up to make the best use of your time. And in the world of real estate and small business, bookkeeping is just not. It does take time to transition though. So when you look at the bookkeeping services that you provide, you do an initial call, you do an assessment, you kind of look at the math, and that's not to, and the other side of that, to your point, is when you have a bookkeeper and you set them up right, the next thing you know, you're getting cash flow statements, you're getting profit and loss statements, financially what the heck is going on. And that's powerful from a decision-making process. That's how I see it, actually. What about you? Like, how do you position it with your clients?
Pretty much the exact same way because so way back when I first started my business, I was wearing all the hats. And I thought, on one hand, wow, I'm kind of a rock star because I'm doing it all. But on the other hand, I completely forgot why I started a business because I was working more than I was working as a CFO. And I thought, whoa, what's actually important to me? Um, why did I even start this? Because I don't want to work 60 plus hours a week on XYZ. And for me, my value in time goes to my family. And that
Mm.
was my initial reason that I started my business was to
Yes.
eventually have, and I don't want to paint this, fake picture of I work 3 hours a week and it's just blissful because that's not it at all. My kids are older, they're in school, that's when I work. But I wanted to have that time at night that I could actually sit down, eat dinner with my family, and log off, if you will. Not all hours of the night. I've got some kind of screen in front of me and thinking about my next task that I have to do because it's still lingering and I haven't done my own books and now I have all these things that need to be done. I needed to have that unrealistic balance, if you will. And a lot of other people are the same way. They just don't know how to put that into words. So, a big question we ask a person that comes to us, we start with a strategy call. Usually very quick because we send a form before the call and try to get all the details. Is what do you want your ideal day, week to look like? How many hours do you want to work? What's the most important thing to you? Because time is such a valuable asset, you cannot get it back.
Mm.
Money, you can make money any day, anytime. You can figure it out. Time you can't get back. So, what does your ideal day look like? Does it look like working 5 hours? Is it an 8 hour day? I can guarantee if any small business owner does a time audit, which I know the word audit like causes some scary feelings, but audit your time. Where is it going? And how much
Mhm.
are you charging your clients an hour? So if you charge your clients $100 an hour and it's spent on bookkeeping, you're overpaying for a bookkeeper.
100%.
You're overpaying.
Yeah.
So the time audit greatly helps you take a hold of, oh my gosh, I didn't realize every single Monday morning I spend 5 hours in my email. That's $500 in an email. It's such a humbling moment because you don't know what you're doing if you don't sit down and just audit it out. And that helps us paint the picture for the client. It says, okay, see how long you're working on this bookkeeping? We could probably do that in half that time for your entire month because it's what we do all day. It's what we're good at. This is our zone of genius. So after the time audit and the humbling moment of I'm overpaying for myself as a bookkeeper, we then go in to say, what do you want to do? Because everything else that's admin, bookkeeping, and accounting, I guarantee it's something that we can learn and we can do it for you. If you have any tasks in your company that only you can do, let's look at that list and we can probably change that. Let's create an SOP for it. Why don't you go through it and screen share? Show me what you're doing. We can probably do that because you really, as a business owner, should never have a giant list of things that only you can do. That to me, that is just not good business. I don't operate that way, even for what I consider the high value tasks in my own business. They have an SOP. We have a task management system. If something were to happen, my hopes and dreams are my husband, who is in no shape or form an accountant, could go into my SOP, see what I did, and replicate it. I would
Mhm.
recommend for any business owner.
So it's, there's a part of all of this conversation, what you talked about is a time audit, with my own coaching clients with small business owners. They get to a place where, we could be having a conversation around bookkeeping, which is a very short conversation in my world, or a conversation, should I hire an assistant? The time audit concept is so powerful. If you take the time over the course of a couple of weeks and just make a note of the time that you're spending in different parts and aspects of your business, it then becomes very clear, whether you should be doing that role or you should be farming it out. Is it a full-time, part-time? Do you job it out to an international team, or do you have to have somebody in office? I've got 3 bookkeepers within my operating companies. None of them are local. All of them I communicate online. I see except for one, I see on a regular basis just because of the nature of the relationship we have. But ultimately, I see him once a year at a Christmas party, and the rest of the time, it's literally me trying to remember to to take a scan or a photo of a receipt and send it to them so that they can keep up. Otherwise, they're looking at my statement, my Visa statement or my American Express statement, and the dreaded email. Patrick, I need receipts for these transactions. It just drives me crazy. I'm awful. And I've gotten better. Anyways, but what's really cool about all of that is at the end of the year, I'm CC'd on an email to my accountant, and it's going, my accountant's name is Kelly. One of my accountant's names is Kelly. And it's like, Kelly, here's Patrick's for XYZ company. Here's the year end, da 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 da. It's a zip file. Let me know if you have any questions. And I go, oh, handle. Like, I don't have to worry about that. It's done. And so that's really, really powerful. And also to speak to this, which is, it's all remote. You don't need to be going to anybody's office. Nobody needs to come to your office. Yes, you need to put some protocols and some systems in place. And then it does take a commitment, like in my case, I've really had to learn that when I sign a receipt where I'm going to expense something, take the frickin' picture in the moment. Otherwise, I lose that receipt. It's like the universe says, let me just vacuum that up so you'll never see it again. So anyways,
like our most sent email is all about the receipts and like the check stubs.
yes.
We have we should probably make that like a AI automated email
Yes.
that goes out, like, go ahead and just send me the receipts because I know you haven't done it yet. And that's
Well, it takes, again, systems, getting to know and trust somebody. Like my bookkeepers have been with me for years. They have access to my bank accounts. They have access. One of my bookkeeping tips for many is get a credit card for each corporation that you have and only use the credit card for that corporation. Full stop. Don't mix your personal stuff in it. And have your own personal credit card that you use, and you can buy gifts that you can't expense, or you can go do what you want with it. But when it comes to your corporate cards, if it's on that card number, for me, Carol Ann, one of my bookkeepers, knows that it is an expense in that corporation. And then she only may email me, say, where's the receipt? Often is the case. And or how do you want me, how do you want that expensed, or what's your thoughts? And we have a conversation around it. But that is efficiencies. And that to me is, okay, if I'm going to spend a couple hours a month doing that kind of stuff, it's almost too much for me. I just dislike it that much.
Yeah, and that's so true because the receipt is one of the most asked questions. But I look at it, if we can put it in some kind of really easy to read spreadsheet, if we can narrow it down to maybe 10 questions, we're saying, hey, we noticed that you bought something. We have a restaurant. We noticed that you bought something from Facebook Marketplace. We know that you just opened a new location. We're guessing that's for this. Can you confirm or let us know? And it's
Yeah.
a simple yes or no. We become very close with our clients. We know their aspirations. We know where they want to go. We knew that this restaurant wanted to expand. So us being super close with our clients helps us help them. So we didn't have to do this run around of maybe they bought a mirror for their house, or maybe let's, just see what they say. No, we're being proactive. We see this and we think it's this, yes or no. And we do have some clients, a lot of our local clients, just from the nature of how I network. I'm a very personable person. I like to see people face to face if possible. My team is virtual, but they all live within an hour. I do have one further away, but it's like you said, it's virtual. We can make it work. But if they're local, I'm going to come and see you. I'm probably going to buy from you. I'm
Mhm.
probably going to go eat at your restaurant, um,
Sure.
because I just want them to know we're real people. We care about you. We're here for you. We're cheerleading you on. But it just helps let them know we've got your back. I have access to their bank accounts, and it's such an intimate feeling when you give someone that access. And I don't minimize that at all. I know how hard it was for me to have someone else doing my own books. I felt some sort of like, oh no, 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 this is private. But then once I outsourced to my team and said, hey, you're gonna get this done faster than I would, everything became easier. And I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt like, oh, this charge is this. And they're like, we already know. Like it's the same every month. You don't have to explain it. Or this charge was personal and I'm sorry, I forgot. I totally got the cards mixed up. They look the exact same. I have a Chase personal and a Chase. And they're like, We know. We figured as a virtual business, you probably don't go to like McDonald's for an accounting firm. Like they know these things. And that's where the relationship comes in. Very little is needed as far as explanation, unless we say, hey, is this? Yes, we're moving on. And that's it. We don't think about your books late at night when we're sitting in bed, like, let me tell you about this business owner. They spent a lot of it, just goes right out of our head. We do not remember the numbers unless we're sitting in front of them, and we just keep going about our day. Yes, it's private. We don't want to minimize that. But everyone's books, they're just numbers. They're just numbers. And we
Well,
want to, you know,
there's another aspect to all of this as well, which is as you're looking at numbers, and although bookkeepers aren't tax experts and they don't profess to be experts, they're have an awareness around certain aspects of bookkeeping and or accounting that actually can shine a light on maybe some questions that need to be asked of your accountant, or maybe you shine a light on something that maybe you're calling it commission instead of calling it a bonus, or vice versa, and then you look at the possible or the potential tax consequences around that subtle I don't want to use what you're going to code that to, or what you're going to put that transaction under. The point is that a bookkeeper who is up to speed will actually give you some thought processes, some guidance, some questions to ask your accountant, or they have a discussion with your accountant saying, how do you want to handle this, or how do we want to apply this charge? And these are conversations that in my world, I don't want to have. I don't want to have to remember those conversations. I can barely remember what I've got to do, this afternoon, let alone, oh, what was that transaction? And it's interesting in the evolution of business, and I'm sure you've seen it, actually, is that when I first started out in business years ago, 100 grand was a lot of money. Now it's still a lot of money, but I would have never in my wildest imagination ever thought that a transfer of $100,000 somewhere, or the expenditure of $100,000 on something for something, that I would ever lose track of it from a memory point of view. And I have been shocked more times where I've done a $50,000 or $100,000 transfer. 2 weeks later, my bookkeeper, Carol Ann, goes, Patrick, what was that 100 grand for? What did you do? And I'm going, frick, I don't know. She says, well, it's, such and such a date on the bank statement. I'm going, frick, I don't remember. Like, it's like, is that pathetic? Maybe, but it just speaks to how busy we get. And that if I didn't have her, it would have been months. And then she works backwards for me and she goes, okay, I think I see where this all kind of transacted. But my point is that as we get busier and as we have things going on in our business, it's almost, I'll say it's virtually impossible to hang on to it from a memory point of view. And how much time do you really want to put into your own spreadsheet? So, especially if you're planning on growth. Now, if you're not planning on growth, if you're not planning on scaling, okay, maybe you can just chug away doing what you're doing, but that
right.
isn't the audience we're talking to today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's money is so relative to the person, because we work with the just starting out businesses that they are aspiring to have 5K months. Like those are the months that they
Yep.
are just really, really trying to get to. But
Yep.
then we work all the way with multi-million dollar construction companies that make $100,000 transfers. And we're like, hey, what was this? And they're like, oh, we're not really sure. And it's relative, it's
Yeah.
money is where you are in your business. That's what money means to you because it really can be different to everybody. And so that's why I have a bookkeeping department, I have an accounting department, and then so I do all the tax returns, but we all work together. My bookkeepers, they are so good at just pounding the data in very quickly. I can ask for something in a 24-hour turnaround and they are done. If I ask that of my accountant, my accounting department, especially my accounting manager, who is my best friend, she is going to be like, no way this is going to be 24 hours. I need 24 hours just to read it and then another 24 to process it because
Yeah.
it's totally different. The data entry is one thing, but the analyzing, we really want to get a hold of it. We want to think about it. We want to strategize with it. And then when it comes to me for the tax return, I have a totally different outlook. I'm
Mhm.
looking at the data entry, then I'm looking at the analyzing that my accounting manager did. Now I'm looking at it from a tax strategy, a tax planning point of view. So I'm seeing what the $100,000 is for. I'm saying, where can we put this that makes the most sense for the future? How can we estimate taxes out and make sure that you're not overpaying, not underpaying, that you're
Mm.
finding that sweet spot? So everything is just so relative to where it is in the process, how much money it is, and where that business owner wants to go. Because there are business owners that say, this is just kind of my fun side gig. This is
Yeah.
something I want to stay compliant, but I'm not really aspiring to be a millionaire through this business. But then we have the other ones that are grinding and saying, tell me what to do. I want to do this. When should I buy this? And you can tell. So it's just a totally different mindset for every stage.
Yeah, and something I don't want to something that you said, kind of tweaked my own thought process around a couple things that we want to share. We can wrap this segment up, in terms of yes, get a bookkeeper. That's the bottom line. Have a bookkeeper for your business. You need to investigate that. It's such a oh man, it's so important. But something you said that tweaked my kind of memory around a couple things, and that is that, my own experience and as I've worked with my own clients in the small business world is that at the end of the year, their accountant does their books. He looks at or she looks at whatever you've got going on, and then you put a tax plan for the next following year. And sometimes it's about, okay, let's bring your income down. Let's split income, whatever the plan is. Let's take a look at what you intending for the upcoming year, and let's plan around that. Well, once that plan is kind of locked down, the thought process, then my accountant will follow up with me in writing, and I will share that with my bookkeeper so that my bookkeeper knows what my plan is. So as revenue's coming in and I'm dispersing whatever that revenue looks like into income and what I'm expensing or not, then the bookkeeper becomes part of my overarching tax plan and keeping it intact, if you will, and kind of making sure that I'm not going off plan, without at least making a conscious decision about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to look at it like we are all part of a household. You own the house, but we're going to keep it running for you. We want to know, what are your plans? Are you going to live here all year? Are you going to kind of vacation? We've got someone that's going to be doing the maintenance, the cleaning. Then we have another person that's kind of looking at remodeling, and let's talk about the plan and what do you want to see? We're all working together. And yes, we are all virtual, but we're talking every single day to make sure that you stay on track. We also do the liaisoning, if you will, with your CPA. So if you have someone, a lot of people have CPAs they've worked with for years, they're very close with. I'm not in the competition mindset. We're all in the financial space together. So if you have a person that's super important to you, you trust them, you've worked with them, we'll talk to them for you. We'll get in there, we'll say, hey, tell us about Patrick's tax plan, because we really want to be on the same page and make sure that we're maintaining what you guys set out to do. So we're all in this together. We all want you to have a well working house, not in a competition space. So that's kind of how we can help if someone already has a CPA or an EA or someone that files. Let us work for you and figure out what works best for your business.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think we've hammered home. Get a bookkeeper. You're a small business owner. You're a real estate investor. Consider a bookkeeper. It is really important that you're not spending your time doing something you don't absolutely love to do. And is it the best use of your time? And I love that you gave it a lot of context. So appreciate that, Ashley. Now, let's talk about your journey. Now, we talked bookkeeping and the impact and why we need it, but how did you come to this? And I mean, ultimately, you're an entrepreneur. You're got an operating business that you're. I always kind of like to ask my guests: is it nature or is it nurture? So, in other words, did you come from a background of entrepreneurship, or your parents entrepreneurs? Like, how did you get on the path that you're find yourself on today?
So I am what I would consider accidentally blessed. Um, and it's because I didn't come from entrepreneur background family at all. My dad and my mom were both W-2 employees my whole life, and they both had their own different struggles, but I was very well taken care of, very well loved. And it wasn't until I started working for a transportation company, and it was a carrying man in a van. And the owner of that is now my father-in-law, but he, like I said, accidentally blessed, but he had a totally different mindset for owning a business. And this was before I started dating my now husband. But this guy, Scott Chamberlain, was such a huge inspiration for me. He made everything look just valuable, genuine, authentic. I never had a boss like him before. And he was the one that he kept hammering into me, like, you could have seen, like, you might own your own business one day. And when I heard that coming from the background that I had, in my mind, I thought, well, will I get a steady paycheck? Does like a business have like their own health insurance? Because that's really scary. And it wasn't until I got into, so fast forward years and years, and a marriage to his son. Um, I got into this position as a younger person. I was a CFO for a multi-million dollar, multi-location construction company. And I never thought I would get that position at such a young age, but I was just very ambitious. I had gotten all the education. I thought, well, now what? Now what do I do? I need to have something to work towards, but this is kind of the top as far as W-2 goes. And so that was when my curiosity said, all right, things are really good. Things are stable. Now let's see how we can shake it up a little bit. And I think if I didn't have the husband that I have, I might still be a W-2 employee, but my husband grew up with a, entrepreneur family. And he said, I think it's time for you to kind of see what this looks like for you. And so I started doing things on the side and eventually grew to where I am now. And I will say I am now the worst employee at my business because I love being the visionary. I love holding the vision, the mission, the values, and I'm the one that goes in there and says, let's just change everything. Everything seems good. Let's just change it. But that's what tells me I might have been born to do it. I just didn't know it because I like seeing things get better from the outside in. And I really, really attest all of my success, my leadership skills to my father-in-law because he showed me what a well-run business can be and what a leader can be. And so I think that just today, and he's not even doing the same thing anymore. He sold it and he's doing something else. But it's so inspiring to see as a business owner, the world is just endless for what you can do. So it's about anyone who watches this.
When you think about leadership, you mentioned that when you consider your father-in-law as that kind of mentor or somebody that you admire and look up to, I'm a big kind of believer that, when we have somebody that we admire the qualities that they have, then it only makes sense. Excuse me. It only makes sense to, in fact, say, why don't I take on some of those qualities? Why don't I look at where I can engage and use those qualities in my own leadership or in my own leadership style or my own business? Now, when you consider, your father-in-law, and you talk about, what there's a lot of things that you admired about him, is there anything that stands out in terms of leadership that you noticed about how he leads that you adopted that really stands out for you?
Yeah. So before he was family, because I don't want it to seem like it's biased. Um, Before he was family, I was a single mom. I was just paycheck to paycheck when I started. He really took a chance on me, I will say, because at the time, he was one of my first accounting jobs, and I needed that job so bad. And I didn't have to say that to him. He was so observant and such a good people person. He was a very good conversationalist. He has that kind of speaking where he'll talk really slowly and make dramatic pauses to where you're on the edge of your seat and you just want to know what he's going to say because it's so impactful. And what he did with every single position, in my opinion, at his company was he looked at every employee like a leader. He didn't look at it like, here's the leader and that's him and everybody else is under him. He looked at every single person. How can I make this person a leader in their position? How can
Mhm.
I make them feel like they have the authority to make decisions for their job, that they take responsibility? And that just really changed me because at that time I needed to feel like I had that sense of purpose. And I took that and I now do that in my own business. So my employees, I really empower them to make decisions themselves, to trust their own decision making, to
Mhm.
feel like they are a leader in their position because that just helps me. I don't carry this huge, heavy load of all of the decisions are on me. I share it with my employees because they care so much about what they're doing. They care about our mission, what we're doing this for, our clients. They are the leader in their own department, and that is just so special and valuable to any business owner. So I did take that from him and I brought it to my own business today.
Well, it's, that quality in a leader is interesting, I find, because great leaders, there's a phrase that I often go back to, which is confidence is rarely owned, it's often borrowed. And we can borrow our confidence, and from a great leader knows that. So he actually, you use the word empower, which is a great word, but it also is, by doing that, he's lending you the confidence you need to do the job. And a leader can either strip you of your confidence. Poor leadership will strip you of your confidence or actually help you have the confidence to do what you're being asked to do. And, by what you're describing, in this case, your father-in-law, is he really learned how to do that. And that's probably a quality that you've taken on. And it works. I mean, ultimately, when we can empower our team to rise above what they think they're even capable of, that part of that is giving them the confidence to, and believing in them that they can do it. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's when you start a business and you're the the mini hat wearer, there's such a keep you up at night feeling. Like if I don't make all of the right decisions, or if I don't get back to this person with a decision, I'm failing. And for my team specifically, instead of just calling, my first bookkeeper I hired, I didn't just call her a bookkeeper. I said, you are a bookkeeping manager. You're managing the bookkeeping, and I want to trust you and trust yourself to make a good decision. And if you ever bring a problem to me, I want you to also bring what you would think a good solution would be, and we'll talk about it. And it built her confidence. I could just see it in her eyes when we talked. She started feeling like a leader in her position, and now she is training other people to do it. But it didn't start that way. And I think if you start outsourcing the decisions that you have to make every single day to your team, now all of them are invested in your company. All of them want to see you succeed. And I don't have incentive programs in my company. We all talk about the numbers pretty openly because that's who we are.
Yeah.
But they all know if I'm successful, they're successful, their families are successful. So they
Mhm.
are bought into our company 100%. I feel like I have people that are like, I hate saying like family, but they just feel like we're just one big family that wants to succeed together. So I think that there's just a win-win situation if you start treating your employees like little leaders, and I love it.
So when you look at, you work with a number of clients, over the years, I've learned a lot from my guests on the podcast, for example. I've learned a lot from the community that we have within the real estate investment network, and whether that be real estate investors or small business owners. My observation is that there are no new problems per se. There's different versions of the same problem. Then, of course, it's the approach and the ability to kind of handle those. And when you look at some of your clients, is there a consistent, or is there something that shows up for you that here's what I notice about small business owners who are successful versus small business owners who are challenged? Now, I want to kind of set you up to answer that question. Is my wife and I have a podcast called Mindset Matters that's part of the Everyday Millionaire. It falls under that umbrella. And we talk a lot about mindset and personal professional development, self-discovery. In your own journey, have you noticed, or have you seen that not just within yourself, and although that's certainly a conversation, but within your own, like within your business owner clients?
Mhm. So at every beginning of a call, I'm all the sentence, "You've probably never seen this before," starts
Mm,
every call.
yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, I
Yeah.
probably have, but go ahead.
I haven't seen it today. Yeah, exactly.
Not today, but probably. Accounting is very black and white, and the problems are usually black and white as well. And it's exactly what you said. The mindset is colorful. The mindset is such a big part of owning a business, running a business that people forget about. And I can tell, the successful business owners, all business owners need to work on their mindset just intentionally every single day, because money is, in our world, money's a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. But success looks different for everybody. And if your mindset is garbage, you don't believe in yourself, you think you're failing from the beginning, you're going to fail. It's
Mhm.
it's a roller coaster of emotions. And I myself, one day I'm thinking I'm a rock star, and the next day I'm like, I think I'll burn it down today because it's such a roller coaster. So for me personally, mindset is something so intentional, because I have learned through myself and my clients, if I'm not doing something every day for myself, everything else falls behind. And I greatly leaned on mentors. I never thought I would have a business coach. And then I got a business coach. And then I said, I think I'll always have a business coach, because you have to surround yourself with support and not just employees. That was the other hard part about the mindset, is my employees started, they were my friends before. And I would talk to them about business. I would lean on them, and I realized we have very different mindsets. I have a business owner mindset, you have an employee mindset. Seeking out that support is so crucial to success. Being in a room, my father-in-law used to say, you don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room, because then you're not in the right room. And at the time I was like, oh, that sounds like a perfect room for me. But now I tell myself, I go to so many networking events, I go to so many just conferences. I want to surround myself with people that are more successful than I am, because I want to see what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they're thinking about it, because that
Mhm.
changes everything. So always, always, always surround yourself with people that are more successful than you, because through osmosis, you will get there. I will always believe that.
Now, you learned a lot from your father-in-law and your observation of him, and even yourself. When we talk about leadership, there's some who believe, and I've talked to guests on the show who are very successful, at least in terms of their top line revenue, maybe their bottom line financially, but there's an underlying part of it that I'm going, what cost did they pay for that, or what is the cost of that to them? And I only say that when you think about leadership and the work that you've done or your observation, are do you, and I want to say study it, but let's put it this way: do you read books about leadership? Do you kind of think about how you're showing up as a leader? Is it very intentional in your world? Was that your observation, for example, of your father-in-law? How important was being a intentional leader, or how important is it to you, and what's your observation?
Yeah, my father-in-law was a huge reader.
Mhm.
I love reading, but for me, at the time, the books he would recommend, I'm like, not my style, or I don't want to put time into that. It wasn't until I started realizing when my mindset is different, my business is different, which probably happened around when I started hiring. Um, that was such a light bulb for me. So I went back and read the books. I went back and listened to the podcast. That is, listening to a podcast is something I do every single day after I drop my kiddos off, on the way back to my home, my office. I listen to something that is inspiring. I do listen to funny podcasts sometimes because I think, okay, we're gonna mix it with feeling inspired, but then let's start it off with some comedy. So mindset doesn't just to me have to be here's how to be a leader. One, two,
Mhm.
three. It's being a leader is first off enjoying yourself as a
Mhm.
leader. And if you can't laugh at yourself, to me, comedy is so important. I love making people laugh. So I want to start off my day with laughing because it's just money. And yes, I will say it's a privilege to even say that, but intentionally saying, I want to smile at the beginning of my day, not when the day is over and I'm smiling because it's over. Let's start on a good foot. And
Well,
it's different for everybody. But for me, I want my kids to see as I'm going into a work day, because they're little sponges. I'm going into a work day with a smile. I enjoy what I'm doing, and I want my day to at least start off that way because they watch everything. My kids, do I think they're going to be accountants? Maybe not. Do I want them to be a business owner or at least see what the ins and outs look like? Yes. And I want them to walk away saying, she was always smiling when she dropped us off at school. She was a weirdo, but she was smiling. So
mhm.
something was working and they notice stuff like that. So my father-in-law taught me the reading. The podcasts do help, but really knowing who is watching. And for me, it's my kids. And the networking groups that I'm in. I'm in a lot of networking groups. My BNI group that I'm in locally, they have a podcast, and I do, get those little credits every week. But those podcasts are inspiring, and they're not always just BNI is the greatest, drink the Kool Aid. It's here's 15 minutes of maybe a way to look at a sales call in a different way that you looked at it before, and it feels inspiring. Or here's someone's story in 5 minutes of how they got from here to here. Inspiration is a big part because I'm very goal oriented. So if I hear someone else doing it, maybe it's FOMO. I don't want to miss out, but I'm like, I want to know what they're doing and I want to know how they're doing it and I want to apply it to some part of my business. So whatever works for you, just get it in somehow.
Beautiful. It's first off, my joke would be, I will pray for your children that they don't grow up to be accountants. Okay, so that's
Same.
that's that's only because I joke all the time. Just the word accountant puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
So that's just my own shot at accounting. It's just not my thing, and it's necessary. But oh man, do I not like accounting? It is so dry to me. Having said that, the one thing I like to listen to comedy at the end of my day after a long day. Mentally I'm done and I'm going okay, and so I'm good for a laugh at the end of the day. Like you, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's some that are go tos for me that are actually inspiring, and there's always seems to be always some nugget in there that we can take away and learn from. So I think it's important to kind of expand. And as much as I like reading, I've become a fan of Audible, but I'm also learning that there is a part of me that the auditory learning, so I know that that's part of my style.
Sure.
But having said that, I love my Kindle books that I can download on my iPad and make notes and copy and paste and do those kinds of things. So all to say this is that, I'm a tough study. I have to study in order to, I'm always on a journey of how can I be better, do better. That's just my own stuff, but not everybody's wired that way. So in the kind of space of first off, thank you for your time. You've been very generous. As we wind down, there's some questions that, kind of I always say is that they're rapid fire, but they're rarely rapid fire. A couple of them are always rapid fire. But anyways, you ready for some more rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm always surprised by the answer, but we'll see what it is. It's just like really simple. Apple or Android?
Oh, Apple all day, every day.
Oh, you sound like one of those real Apple. I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago, guys.
Did. I remember when iPhones came into, I was in late high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, their parents are rich because they have an iPhone. But now as an adult, I think just simple. I want it to be simple. I want an easy process. I want customer service to be easily obtainable. So Apple.
So Apple's it. Yeah, there's very few Android people that I talk to be honest with you, but it's an interesting. I like to ask the question because it is, it's kind of a standing joke internal, but I was an Android person myself, and over the past 5 or 6 years, I've gone iPad and iPhone and MacBook Pro, and I'm kind of all wired in Apple, and I do appreciate the seamlessness of the interactivity that goes along with it. So it's very, very good. Now, you talked about books. Is there a book that was pivotal for you, or is there a book that you gift out, recommend? Was there a book that stands out for you?
Oh, there's so many. Oh man, so many. I will say most recently, I have read The $100 Million Offer by
Mm.
Alex Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy, yeah.
Yep. I really enjoyed it. It gives, I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but it's good when you want to think about growth and you want to think about,
Yep.
you can apply it to any industry, in my opinion, and how you can get. That was really good for me.
Alex is an interesting cat. He's done some really cool stuff, really blown up, and I like his stuff. I think that Alex does a great job and really speaks to that kind of marketing component, languaging, sales. I think he's great. He's definitely a must follow in my world, anyways. Favorite tune or favorite group genre of music?
These are hard. I would be remiss if I didn't say my husband,
Oh,
a musician, and we both enjoy. We really like the Allman Brothers. We like Grateful Dead,
yeah.
um, yeah, Alabama Shakes. But my husband is a musician. He sings country and blues. He's got a couple songs on the streaming platforms, and I've heard them 100 million times. So I would hope someone else will listen to them on these so we can get a
That's,
stream.
that's cool. And favorite movie?
Favorite movie? That's a hard one too. I really like the Dune series. I went and watched Dune 2 in
Yeah.
theaters with my 12-year-old recently. It is a very long movie, but I love a little bit of sci-fi. I was a big Star Wars fan growing up, so it's a good one.
I haven't seen Dune 2 yet, but I'm told and I've heard lots about it, so I'll probably at some point take a look. Favorite swear word?
Oh, I mean, all of them.
Oh, all of them. Okay, great.
I work in construction. I worked in the construction industry, so we just say shit just because we're like, oh, it's kind of boring in here.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a little exclamation mark.
Yeah,
Yes, got it.
yeah.
Awesome. If heaven exists, what do you want to hear God say when you get to the gates, Ashley?
Ooh. Um, you made a very big impact on the world.
Love it.
Love to hear that.
Final question. What are you grateful for today?
I do gratitude every single day. I write it down. And today I did. I wrote down that I was grateful for my family because no one is sick right now, knocking on wood. And they're all just go with the flow. And I'm very lucky. I have very easy, healthy, sweet boys. And we have a foreign exchange student. She's become part of the family as well. So I'm very, very grateful that I have the family that I have right now.
Beautiful. And I am always grateful for my guests and the opportunity to meet such a diverse kind of lineup of people over the years that I've done the podcast. Very grateful to have had the opportunity to speak with you. And like you, I'm always grateful for my family. And it's good to make a note and to take a minute to acknowledge what we're grateful for, given that we often have so many things coming at us that we don't feel so grateful for. But Ashley, thank you so much for your time. Folks, always think about that bookkeeper. You need one. Ashley, thank you very much.
Thank you.